I'll keep it simple and tell it like it happened, because some nights still smell like snow and ginger tea to me. You know what I mean? The night this all began, I was closing the Lucky Dragon on the east side of Detroit, counting tips twice and coming up short, when a man walked in looking like the world had sandpapered him down. Cracked lips, wet beard, hands shaking. And when I asked eating or warming up, he whispered. He had no money. I had $10 in my coat for dinner and a bus card. And I heard my Mama Ruth like she was standing right behind me saying, "Baby pride won't fill your belly," so I slid 2 pork dumplings and a styrofoam cup of ginger tea across the counter and told him it ain't much. But warm food beats cold pride, he ate. Slow, eyes closed like the heat was stitching him back together. And when he left, he tucked a note under the napkin dispenser and forgot his gloves. The note said, "You reminded me of someone I lost. Thank you for seeing me." That was it, no name, no angle. And if you're wondering, yeah, my coworker Naya clowned me loud enough for the soy sauce to blush. "You feeding strays now, Tessa." And I just wiped the counter and said I did what somebody should have done for you one day. A week later, the door chime hits, and that same man walks in. Cleaned up and steady, shaved warm coat boots that didn't leak, sets a little black box on the counter that like it might bite and says, "Tessa Brooks, I'd like to invest in your future." I laughed, because what else do you do when your rent's late and your hands smell like fryer oil? And he says, "My name is Andrew Hale. I run Hale and Company Hospitality." And I swear I felt the room tilt. I'd heard his name on the radio whenever folks said downtown Renaissance. He slid the box closer. Inside was a set of keys. There's a closed bakery on Junction Street, my mom's favorite back in the day. I never figured out what to do with it. I think you already know, the diner went quiet, like a church, after the benediction. Naya folded her arms and called it a stunt, cameras, or it ain't real. But Andrew didn't argue, he just said, "You fed me when I was nobody, and I watched you a week to make sure it wasn't luck. You are the same when nobody's watching." Let me back that up, I told him I'd think went home to my drafty studio set, those keys beside Mama's dented recipe tin, pulled out a grease-stained card that said, "Sweet potato, hand pies, more clove when it's cold," and cried into it, laughed into it. Yeah, that happened next morning. I called the number in his envelope and said, "I'm in, but I'm green." He said that's what guidance is for, and put me with Donna Ruiz, legal and logistics, the kind of woman who could make paperwork purr. The bakery was a time capsule cracked tile, a cash register older than me, flyers for church bake sales, bleached to yellow. I dragged my hand along the counter, like it could remember my mother's voice, Big Joe. The contractor showed up in flannel with a pencil behind his ear and said, "Watch your step, boss." "That floorboard is a trap, boss," I laughed. Then almost threw up. We filed permits. Andrew's team moved like people with City Hall on speed dial. But they didn't rush me, they let me build the soul, while they handled the skeleton in the back kitchen. I steamed my first batch of sweet potato bao. Molasses clove a kiss of heat. And Andrew took a bite and went quiet, the way people go when they find home in their mouth. We talked names under a single buzzing bulb, and landed on Ruthie's table because I wanted folks to feel seen, not just fed. We put together a private tasting, church lady with a rhinestone hat, bus driver, retired, teacher, a taco truck, line cook, a baby influencer with big glasses, plates hit the wood, and breaths hitched, catfish, spring rolls, gumbo dumplings, peach cobbler, pot stickers dusted with cinnamon. I said less and cooked more, and the room answered with that low hum you get when strangers remember they're a family. For an hour on the bus ride home, my phone started buzzing like a hornet's nest. Screenshots. Naya's post of Andrew handing me the key box. Must be nice from waitress to owner. Wonder what she had to serve to get there. My old shame tried to climb back in my chest, but I wouldn't let it. Next morning, I propped my cracked phone against a sugar jar and pressed record. Told folks the truth. I scrubbed grease for years. I fed a cold man because he was hungry, not because he was rich. You don't have to eat at my place, just don't shame kindness. And don't tell a woman from the east side she needs anything but her own hands to build a room. I posted it and went to work. By lunch, my phone looked like it would burst, not from likes, from messages that said, "I see you, my mama did the same, keep going." Then came the developer. Victor Lang polished glass. Big smiles, bigger renderings. He shook my hand and said, "I hear you're opening across from my new concept." I said, "I hear you're building a concept where families used to play ball." He laughed and showed me Block 313 on his phone. Soul fusion with dim sum. Edison bulbs, a menu suspiciously familiar. People like you find culture and turn it into wallpaper. I said. "People like me make money for the city," he said, and walked off. In shoes that never met a pothole. We fought back quiet and loud. Dana ran point on permits. Andrew called in a favor with Councilwoman Green, and we met Marisol Vega, a surgical kind of attorney, who said if you can show real impact, we can push for a heritage food corridor and slow him down, give you teeth without losing who you are, meanwhile. I started stories and suppers, one long table down the middle. Lights low paper place cards that read "Sit where you would have when you were 6 and scared." I served my mama's liver and onions with sweet cornbread and told them how she hummed Al Green while onions went gold. Grown folks cried, then laughed, because crying together is an amen. At City Hall, I said into a mic that tasted like pennies, "My restaurant is memory, and when you build over memory without asking, you tear holes in people you can't see." The vote went 5-2. We hugged in a hallway that smelled like floor wax and cheap victory. I wish that was the neat bow, but Detroit doesn't do neat. The fire came at 3:11 a.m. 3. Tuesdays later, small, intentional. The kind that starts near a grease trap you cleaned yesterday. A young firefighter asked if I had enemies, and I said, "Not until last month, we didn't whisper about it." I stood outside in a soot-streaked apron with my staff behind me, and told the cameras someone tried to burn a kitchen built on my mother's recipes, but you can't burn a legacy. We'll rebuild and reopen. People brought $20 bills and buckets and prayers. An artist painted a mural of Mama above the hostess stand. Not pretty, not airbrushed, just Ruth hoop earrings and smile lines. Every color pulled from food, paprika mustard collards, molasses. We added a second dumpling station and a rooftop herb garden, because if you're starting over, you might as well plant basil on reopening night. Victor launched Block 313 downtown with a velvet rope and a DJ. We had elders in church coats, a blues guitarist who sounded like a train turning a corner, and folding chairs that wobbled on honest floors. Victor slid in with a smirk and said his place was booked 6 weeks, and investors loved it. I asked how it tasted. He didn't answer. Then he floated a partnership. 10 Ruthie's tables nationwide, his system, my story. I told him you can't license dignity and you can't laminate soul. He left with his hands empty. Here's the twist that still stings a little. Betrayal wears a clipboard. I learned Donna had met Victor 3 times. She said it was recon. Andrew showed me timestamps and the floor dropped out from under my stomach. I didn't yell. I closed the office door and put the photo on the desk. "You knew what this place means," I said. "And you still sat at his table," she said. She never fed him our plans, I told her. Intent doesn't erase impact. Finish the week, then go. I cried once, washed my face, and went back on the line. Within days, we found invoices routed through a logistics shell, tied to Victor's old deals, a leak in procurement that smelled like someone betting. I wouldn't look. I called an all-staff meeting. No food, just chairs, and said, "We are not a convenience, we are a kitchen." Every purchase over 50 gets 2 signatures, and my eyes. If this is a family, we act like one. Yeah, that was a hard day and we got stronger for it. 3 months later, the block looked different. Potholes filled a community fridge humming on the corner, murals blooming like testimonies. We opened a paid apprenticeship for teens because I don't believe in exposure. I believe in rent. Jasmine, who started as hostess, became director of culture and training, which is a fancy way of saying she keeps us human. We shut down the street one weekend for the table of us. Our own scrappy festival while Victor headlined the Culinary Futures Expo. Our tents were crooked, our grills borrowed our music, half in tune, and it was perfect. Yemeni bread next to Haitian soup, jumu, next to tamales, next to a 12-year-old selling lemon ice that tasted like sunlight. I climbed a milk crate at exactly 3:11 p.m. and held Mama's ladle like a baton. They tried to burn us. They tried to rewrite us. We cooked through it. You can't gentrify the soul. A chant started from somewhere, feed the story, feed the fight. And for a second, I thought this right here is what winning feels like. Block 313 went dark. A few weeks after that, no press release, just lights out. Victor came in one night, in a plain jacket hat. In his hand said, "I tasted the difference," slid a check across the counter for our apprenticeships. Jasmine filed it under anonymous, and I nodded. Because forgiveness is a road, and I was still at the light. And then a little girl walked in with her aunt on a Tuesday, near closing, held up a half-eaten sweet potato. Bao, and asked if I was the boss, I said. One of them, she said, "This tastes like a hug." And I told her, that's because it is. That's the moment I count, not the city vote or the headlines. A kid ate something we made with care and felt safe for 1 second. In a world that can be mean, that's enough fuel to push through another winter. So tell me who was right and who was wrong. The girl who gave away her last $10, the coworker who called her naive, the man who offered keys with no strings, the developer who tried to scale what can't be scaled. Have you watched a neighborhood get lifted by places like this, or flattened for something glossy that never felt like home? Drop your city and the dish that tastes like a hug. Where you're from, push back. If you think I'm wrong, back me up. If you've lived this, and if this story hits something in you, share it with one person who needs a reminder that kindness isn't weakness, it's a fight. And every fight starts when somebody sets down the first plate.